Today on the Big 3 in 30, Florida lands one of the top linemen in the class of 2027.
Who predicted that one? The Florida Gators landed Maxwell Hiller.
A first look at Auburn football at spring practice.
Just got done watching our open viewing window for media.
And Penn State needs to find itself a new quarterback.
We are talking Penn State football recruiting, of course.
This is the Big 3 in 30 College, the three biggest stories on campus from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 in 30 College starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 in 30 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Florida picked up a major recruiting win with Maxwell Hiller, one of the top offensive linemen in the 2027 class and the highest ranked commit yet under John Sumrall. Brandon Olson from Locked On Gators has the latest on that commitment.
Wow. Who predicted that one, right? Who predicted that one? The Florida Gators landed Maxwell Hiller right now, which, I mean, look, it's not a big surprise that he ended up committing to the Florida Gators, unless you are a Florida Gators fan that has just been pummeled by, oh, well, you know, they got this offensive lineman on campus. They got this offensive lineman being recruited. Then sure, it came as a surprise. But don't forget, Maxwell Hiller, who he's listed by most services as an interior offensive lineman or just an outright offensive lineman. And the reason for that, the purpose behind him being listed as an interior offensive lineman or just an offensive lineman, is that his film is at left tackle. A lot of people project him to play guard at the next level. Personally, I don't care. And I don't think Troutwine cares that much, to be honest with you. I think we've reached a point in college football and professional football as well, where we're no longer going, oh, this guy doesn't have this trait, so he can't play tackle, unless it's your quick feet. And Maxwell Hiller has the footwork, I believe, to work at offensive tackle, okay, and to succeed at offensive tackle. You watch the film. Before I even say watch the film, right? Before we even talk about saying watch the film, just go to Google and put Maxwell Hiller Huddle, Hudl. And before you even watch the film itself, he has one clip at the very top that is, I think it's like 3 or 4 laughing emojis. And then you click it. And what it is he drops into a set. He engages with the defender. He then runs with the defender all the way downfield and puts the defender on his ass and the referee right in the way. Puts them all on the ground. That's the kind of guy that the Florida Gators just got on their offensive line. And again, it is important to remember that you've got Phil Troutwine there now. And Phil Troutwine is an excellent offensive line coach, an excellent offensive line developer. And by the way, those aren't necessarily the same thing. He's both. An excellent offensive line coach can say, hey, I'm going to get the most out of my that may be. Right. And like Q said, hit the like, people. We just got a 5-star commit. I almost forgot how to mentally process the sentence. The Gators have secured a commitment from a 5-star offensive line recruit. Well, ain't done yet. Just going to throw that one out there for you. But I think an offensive line coach can get his guys to play like a unit. It doesn't necessarily mean that any individual got technically better. It means that you can get your guys to play like a unit. It means you can get your guys to perform. Phil Troutwine does that. He's done that his entire career. Okay? An offensive line developer is the guy that goes, hey, your hand placement, your footwork, all that stuff, we help you get better there. And Phil Troutwine has proven that he can do that consistently. And I'm just saying, every time I've been in this house, Florida does something pretty good on the offensive line. In fact, the last time I was in this very house, Phil Troutwine got hired to be the offensive line coach of the Florida Gators. And then I walked through the door And actually, before I even get into the door, Maxwell Hiller is a Florida Gator. The offensive line for the Florida Gators is finally going to be respectable. Offensive line recruiting is finally going to be respectable. And man, I mean, does it feel good or what to know that I'm not going to say the Florida Gators are back, but they are serious again. They are relevant again. And landing Maxwell Hiller, that's a huge addition for the Florida Gators. Literally, figuratively, in any way you could possibly mean it. You just added a 5-star plus, which, by the way, if you see 5-star plus anywhere, and you want to know what that means, that's Rivals /On3. That's their way of saying, hey, this guy's a 5-star on every unanimous 5-star. Everyone is in agreement that Maxwell Hiller is a top 8 player in the 2027 recruiting class, and everyone can look at his profile right now on Rivals, on 24/7, on ESPN. And you know what you'll see when you go to Maxwell Hiller's profile on any of those? You'll see that beautiful Gator head right there. You'll see that beautiful Gator logo right there. Maxwell Hiller mentioned during his March visit, hey, I could commit this summer or I could commit real soon. We'll find out. And now it is time for the spring game this weekend. And you just added Maxwell Hiller to the class and potentially adding your quarterback to the class.
Way Day is here, and if you've been thinking about upgrading your space, this is the time to do it. We're talking about some of the best deals of the year on furniture, decor, outdoor essentials, everything you need to refresh your home. During Way Day, Wayfair is offering up to 80% off with fast and free shipping on everything, making it easy to find the pieces that fit your style and your budget. It's super easy to filter by size, style, and price on the site, so you're not wasting time scrolling. And Wayfair verified products are vetted by specialists, so you know you're getting quality. Whether it's upgrading a room, adding outdoor pieces, or just finding something that ties your space together, it makes the whole process simple from start to finish. Wayday is the sale to shop the best deals in home. We're talking with up to 80% off with fast shipping and free shipping on everything. Head to wayfair.com April 25th through the 27th to shop Wayday. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Gametime has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast, without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. Gametime has all-in pricing up front, so you know exactly what you're going to pay. And you can take a look at where your seat is as well with their view from the seat feature. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off to your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. Welcome back to the Big 3 in 30 College. Spring ball continues at Auburn, and the latest practice notes are starting to shape the conversation around new starters, position battles, and what this team will look like in the fall. Zach Blackerby from Locked On Auburn has the latest from the practice field.
Just got done watching our open viewing window for media, and to me, I spent the most time watching running backs and receivers today. And Bryson Washington, number 30, for some reason still goes last in the order every single time. But I just refuse to believe that he's the last running back on the depth chart. He runs with so much power, and just watching him hit bags, or if it's a coach holding a dummy, whatever it is, he's so violent at the point of attack, and I can't wait to watch him in this offense.
I can't wait to watch him too. I couldn't help but notice how physically imposing he is. I was shocked by it when we watched him in the first practice. And today, believe it or not, it looks like he's gotten stronger and it put on a little bit more muscle. That's what the spring is about, though, Zach. It's about building yourself up physically, because once the season gets here, it's too late to become who you need to be physically. Bryson Washington is going to give Auburn such a great 1-2 punch at running back, a guy who can come in and just bruise and beat on you when Jeremiah Cobb goes out of the game.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do think there's different types of backs in the system. We all know what Jeremiah Cobb is. I think he's kind of a one-cut, beat you with speed, has some versatility. Then you got Omar Mabson, who I think is faster than people realize, but to me, he's a pile mover, at least right now. I think he'll develop his game more as he goes along. But then, like Bryson Washington, Nakai Davenport, I think, is a similar build to Cobb. Like, he's a little bit bigger than Cobb, it seems like. But then you got Bryson Washington, who looks like nothing like the other guys. I mean, he's significantly taller, he's heavier. And so I'm very pro, like, you want all your running backs to do different things. And this is kind of what that backfield looks like.
Yeah, a change of pace back, I think, is the term. He will be a good change of pace back, and he will be able to get between the tackles. And I wonder how much they'll use him down on the goal line based on what we saw today. Now, we haven't gotten to see much any team period since spring practice has started.
Right.
But the reports that are coming in are that he is a hard guy to tackle. And look, you got to make defenses feel it when you're running the football. That starts with your running backs just not refusing to go down. And so they're working on a lot of the fundamentals of what makes a good back this spring. What I've been told is that there's an attitude. Let's return to the basics here. And when we come out to watch practice, that's what I'm seeing. In the periods that we get to watch, I'm seeing them work on a lot of basic things that they feel like, hey, let's not forget what makes a good running back, what makes a good run. Bryson Washington already has a ton of experience,
right,
but he has taken an attitude this spring, Zach, that I'm not too good to relearn what I need to relearn.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, like in the first drill of the day after stretching, the first thing that they did, I think every day, not every day, but most days it seems like, is they'll go through quickly with the quarterbacks and they'll do, the act like they're, the handing the ball off to them, and it'll be, first quarterback, first running back, and then they'll cycle through. The way the numbers work is like, all right, Byron was with Cobb, right? And then T.O.'s with Omar. And then they go through all of them. And then when they cycle through again, Washington is with Byram when they cycle through. And that's kind of how they ended that drill. So take that for what it's worth. That's just speculation. But once again, take it for what it's worth. Quarterbacks in the same order. Tia seems to be QB2. Like the first practice, we saw him kind of going back and forth. That seems to be done.
Yeah.
So to no surprise, Tristan Tia is QB2. I like how the ball leaves his hand. He's an athletic guy. Can he grasp the system? I think that'll be something fun to monitor moving forward. The offensive line seemed to be the same. We didn't see all five of them just line up. But as far as the order they were going through the drills from left to right, it seemed to be the same. Joe Simmons at left tackle, Derek Plaz at left guard, at center Cole Best, right guard Skinner, and then at right tackle it was the freshman Wilson Zierer again.
Gola said he wanted to narrow this down to 8 guys by the end of the spring. It looks to me, based on what I saw, the same thing you saw on offensive line, that they're getting closer to that. Every spring you got to narrow it down quickly, right? Because you can't waste repetitions on guys who will not play. So you got to figure out quickly who your guys are going to be. You have an idea of that coming into the spring. Stanton Rommel was in the indoor facility today, kind of working away from the other offensive linemen. Couldn't help but notice that.
In full pads.
Yep.
In full pads, which was good. Wasn't wearing a helmet, but had shoulder pads on. It looked like they were kind of letting him move around laterally a little bit, which is good. Yeah, there's 8 guys. Like, you got to assume it's the 5 guys, and then Stanton Ramil, and then Jack Lair, and Kel Ellis. I would guess is the 8 right now. Ty Buster, I think, is a variable in that as well. We heard Kenneth McManus' name a lot early, and then that's kind of faded away. And then what happens with Strand when he's back and ready and available. We'll have to see with him.
Zach, the QBs, I got to tell you, there's an ease about QB this spring that's very difficult to explain when you're watching them. But it's we all knew that Byron Brown was going to be the guy. But I got to tell you, they are clearly coaching at levels. If there were 5 levels, they're coaching at level 3 already this spring because Byron Brown is here.
Yeah.
And he looks like a clear leader out there. He looks very comfortable. He looks like he's doing the thing he's done his whole life, just in an Auburn jersey and here at the Waltons. So it's I got to tell you, the more I watch Byron Brown here at spring practice and even today in a little bit we got to see, the more I'm convinced Auburn's going to surprise a lot of people this fall with their passing game.
Yeah, I mean, just watching the receivers today, like Eric Singleton, just watching him complete a rep, like everything about him is so.
Keyshawn Singleton?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
I like Eric Singleton too.
New Singleton. New Singleton. Yes, thank you. Keyshawn Singleton. Like everything about him is so smooth as far as the release, as far as the full route, as far as, the process of catching the football. And like you can tell some people, like some receivers are good at a few of those.
Yeah.
And even like the catching part, they may catch it, but it doesn't always look easy. It's not always like a natural thing. That's not the case with Singleton. So Jeremiah Coger is another one. He's normally lined up on the other side to where like it's farthest from us.
Yes.
So that'd be like to Byram's left. And then Singleton's always to Byram's right as far as when we're in there. That's just the lines that they're in. But he's another guy that like I tried to watch a little bit more today just because it's hard to see him. So you have to like be active in looking at it. And like he's another smooth guy. I don't know if his like catching is as natural, but everything else is just super, super smooth. And he's so big. And like it looks a little weird because like how his stature and how he moves, like it doesn't match. Like he's faster than he should be. And then I'll tell you what, like Brian Williams Jr., number 15, the freshman.
Yeah.
I've talked about him a ton, but every time I'm watching receivers, I can't stop watching him. Like there's something about him. I think him and Spencer, the two of the freshmen, I think they're legitimately fighting for targets in this offense.
Yeah, look, here's what I feel about wide receiver. There are clear front runners here. We know Nimrod is clearly a front runner. We know that Singleton and Coger are front runners. They're going to try to lay a foundation, I think, at receiver where if they got to mix it up, if there are injuries, there's a clear succession at each position where the guy at that position steps in. I like this receiver group. Famously, Heather Dinich came here a couple years ago and said, Auburn fans are going to need to have some patience with their wide receiver. Haven't heard anybody say anything like that so far this spring. Today, They look like they're moving around well. They look healthy. And I got to tell you, they look very adjusted to Byron Brown's ball placement. It's clear to me, you talked about how the ease of catch looks with some of these guys. They know where he's going to put the ball.
That's a good point.
I noticed it on his deep ball. They know exactly where Byron's going to put it, and they position their body. Former Auburn receiver Devin Aromashadu keyed us on this. He said, Mike, watch on throws to the flat, watch the position of the receiver's hands. It tells you how they practice it, right? When the receiver has their hands here, you know whether they expect the ball on the body or not. So if the quarterback throws it out in front, they have to suddenly lunge forward or something. That's not how they practice that. I've kept a close eye on that today, and it just seems like these guys are catching it exactly where they expect it, and that's very important. How many times did we see last year a basic throw to the flat by Jackson Arnold, and he turns the receiver around.
Gosh.
And then the DB recovers, and then he's tackled on the spot or for a loss.
Right.
Because you couldn't put the ball where it was supposed to be. Ball placement matters. Proper velocity and the right situations matter. And Byron Brown today was doing both those things at a high level.
Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed. That's according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed-sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed-sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves. It's over at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support your show by saying you heard about Indeed right here. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed-sponsored jobs. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Financial stress is something a lot of people are carrying right now, and it's not just about numbers. It can affect your sleep, your relationships, and your overall mental health in ways that build up over time. And the reality is, struggling with money doesn't mean you've failed. Sometimes it just means you haven't had the right kind of support. It's something I've thought about, how easy it is to put pressure on yourself financially without really talking about it. The stress that comes with trying to figure everything out on your own, the expectations they feel you have to have everything together, and that pressure that can spill into other areas of your life. Therapy isn't about financial advice. It's about working through the stress, the anxiety, and the emotions that come with it. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served, BetterHelp makes it easier to get matched and start focusing on what you need. When life feels overwhelming, therapy can help. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Welcome back to the Big 3 in 30 College. Penn State already has momentum in the 2027 recruiting class, but the Nittany Lions still need to land an elite quarterback to make this group feel complete. Zach Sako from Locked On Nittany Lions has more.
We are talking Penn State football recruiting, of course. We're also going to get to the state of college athletics. President Trump signs an executive order to stabilize college, but we're going to talk mostly about the college football aspect of it. But what does this actually do? Will this set up things for a CBA, a collective bargaining agreement? We'll get to that later. Plus, Penn State is trending for a lot of key targets, but when should we expect those commitments? Which prospects are standing out the most? To Brian and I, we're going to start with quarterback because everybody loves quarterback discussions here. And friendly reminder to let us know your thoughts down in the comments section. But Brian, we are seeing the quarterback movement in this class of 2027 has been really slow for the most part, but I think we're going to see it accelerate very rapidly here where guys are just going to come off the board left and right.
I think that's the case, probably more in June and July, like even more than normal because of all the NIL and all that. But when it happens, it'll be a very, very long stack of dominoes. It's going to go quick. Quarterback could be the one that goes a little quicker, though, because usually only take one. Mm-hmm. If a couple of big name guys go off the board, and that's iffy, then it could go a lot. It could be late April, and then it could start with the QB position.
And then Penn State's got to land one of them. So there's a few interesting dynamics here. One of which is Penn State's not really recruiting a ton of quarterbacks. And then we say, okay, the QB movement has been slow, but the focus has been Will Menzel and Peter Bork. Basically those two, and you can't go wrong with either of them. I think that's a win if you're not going to land both. Okay. So I'm not going to sit here and nobody's going to make that argument. But to land one, I think that should be the expectation for Penn State, because honestly, I'm going to be disappointed if they don't land at least one of them. If they don't end up with either of them, that is concerning to me.
Well, if you put all your eggs in a couple of baskets and you don't really have a safety net, as a Penn State fan, it's worth questioning. I think Peter Bork is pretty likely. I was just reading something. Steve Wiltfong likes where they sit with Bork, but it's still a long way to go. Virginia Tech and other teams, Georgia, et cetera, are still going after him. He could take more trips. It's only early April. That's a possibility. Menzel, obviously, that one is the hardest. I have no idea what that kid's doing until he does it. Just call me. I'm kind of at that point with him. I have no idea. Nobody does. I did another crossover with Locked On Auburn about him, telling you the same thing I said with them. It is very difficult. Kid's been to all the schools, and he has a lot of hand in not just Penn State, but Oregon. He's got a visit coming up there on the 16th, another visit, and he's been to Auburn. Until he decides, it really holds back on schools going after other guys, though. He's a very important one in this entire dynamic of quarterback recruiting.
Okay, so explain that one a little more to me here, because yes, I do believe that Menzel is he the number one QB? I mean, Rivals has him as a 5-star. He is the definitive number one. I would say industry's conservatively top 5. So once his name comes off of the recruiting board here, yes, I think that's gonna send at least somewhat of a shockwave. But there's not a lot of schools in play here, unless you know something different. I think it's Penn State, not in any particular order, but Penn State, Oregon, and Auburn. But I can see that if Menzel goes to Penn State, well, if he goes to Oregon, Auburn, though, I think Auburn gets desperate at that point, because it seems like they put the spotlight on Will Menzel, and if they don't get him, then I'm not really sure what's going to happen.
That's why it could be very interesting. Not always, but in these kind of circumstances, it can come down to NIL. Sounds like the kid's not sure. He's going to need something to tilt it in one direction or another. Mm. I mean, he's been to Oregon before, and he's getting ready to go again. So, I don't think he really knows where he wants to go. But the key here, and this is just like anything else, if you're going and looking at different schools and you got 5 on your list and one says, we want you, but it's your 5th choice, and the one you really want to hear back from is going to give you that answer the latest, it's a conundrum. And that's kind of what this is in recruiting too. If you wait too long, there aren't any other options. And if your number one option says no, you're sitting there holding nothing. That's pretty much where Auburn is right now.
That's Auburn. Penn State, I think, is in a similar category, because it seems like it's Will Menzel or Peter Bork or bust. I know there's a couple other just under the radar QBs that we've talked about in the past, right? Sure. 3-star quarterback Will Wood, same thing out of the Northeast area, like Peter Bork. And you and I have said he's good, he's unpolished, he's raw, and maybe that's somebody that rises later in the rankings. But if you go to Rivals on 3, if you go to 24/7, there's not a lot of offers out for Penn State when it comes to quarterback. Yet Matt Campbell and this group are really trying to push for a quarterback and potentially 2 in the class of 2027. Yet they officially only have 4 or 5 offers out. Help me make sense of that.
Either they think they're going to get the exact guys they want, or they're actually okay with one. That's the only logical, because offering 4 or 5 guys or whatever is a really low number.
Yeah.
A few other schools that do it that way too, but Ohio State doesn't offer a bunch, Notre Dame, Oregon, there's a handful. But if you're thinking about taking 2, it changes the dynamic. So maybe they're waiting for their camp. Maybe they got a couple other guys they might bring in. I'm guessing here. I don't have any intel, but that's a low number if you're considering a second quarterback in an individual class.
And it's intriguing for Penn State's quarterback setup, because they're going to lose Rocco Becht after this season. Mm-hmm. They're going to lose Connor Berry, who they brought in as insurance, because Alex Mansky is to be determined with his health. We don't know what's going on there. What procedure he had, how long he's going to be out, the severity of it, right? So is this a slow progression back into things, or is he going to be ready to go by fall camp and he is QB2 going into game 1 for Penn State this season? Or if this is something that we don't know his timeline. So that's where the 2 quarterback conversation becomes that much more interesting. And if you miss out on a Will Menzel, and if you miss out on a Peter Bork, despite you're trending for both. Penn State, I think, is trending up for both, but they sit in a better situation with Peter Bork. I think Oregon and Auburn are tougher competition for Menzel for obvious reasons, but Georgia's no pushover, and Virginia Tech, yes, James Franklin and Danny O'Brien have a prior relationship with Bork, so that one's just gonna. I'm not afraid of Virginia Tech. Georgia would be the one to watch for there. So, Brian, if they don't end up with either QB here, because I think Peter Bork and Will Menzel can be starters in year 1 as a true freshman if they were to choose Penn State and go into a hypothetical quarterback battle. There's always the transfer portal and everything like that. We're going to get to the logistics of that potentially later, what that could look like later on in the show. So I kind of, because we don't know the uncertainty, I almost think that Penn State does need to let's just go to the transfer portal. No. Try to land Peter Bork and Will Menzel above all else, and then use the portal as your backup plan.
Yeah, I think the portal needs to be their last resort. It would be great if they could get one of the elite quarterbacks and still take a portal guy, even if it's just an insurance plan.
Mhm.
But I think it would be best with the kind of program that this staff is at least used to when they were at Iowa State. Sure, they took some portal guys, but they built through the high school ranks, occasional JUCO kid, whatever, and they played with juniors, seniors, and fifth-year seniors. It's really not that much different than what James Franklin did in that regard, to be honest with you. He was pretty consistent with that too. So to that end, if you can get an elite quarterback, especially if you get it early, it'll help build your class. It'll help build the roster. And then if talking with their parents, you have to figure that stuff out. That's very individualistic. Whether or not you go after a portal quarterback that's going to be your guy, part of that's Mansky and all that. There are too many things to worry about. But you still got to get the high school quarterback regardless. There's just no way. You need to balance out the roster. I think they need to take a portal quarterback either way to get a different perspective depth from senior to freshman. But if the freshman wins the job, that's okay.
Yep.
In state, you just got to play the best guy, whoever it ends up being. So go get the best quarterback and see what happens.
That's all for today's Big 3 and 30 College. If you follow pro basketball or football, the Big 3 and 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NBA and NFL going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 and 30 NBA or the Big 3 and 30 NFL wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 3 and 30 College.